everybody, welcome to Off the Shelf Board Game Reviews. This week we're looking at the Apocrypha Adventure Card Game. This is a cooperative game for 1 to 6 players. Depending on how many players you have, it's going to play anywhere from about maybe an hour all the way up to 3 hours, or maybe longer for some of the tougher missions. Now there's two different ways you can play the Apocrypha game. You can play as purely as a cooperative game where our heroes are saints. They have the ability to see the special dark secrets of the underworld that nobody else can see. Think of this a lot like Supernatural, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or maybe even Grimm the TV show. You are a special saint and you have the ability to see the evils of the world, and your goal is to save the world from all these evils before they destroy our wonderful planet. Now there's an additional way you can play the game. I'm not going to cover too much, but it's kind of like an RPG light, where one player is going to take on the role of more of like a guide who's going to guide our heroes through a lot of adventures. Now it is an alternate way to play the game. It uses mostly the same amount of rules, but there are some different modifications to the basic rules that kind of changed up a little bit. What we're going to cover here is purely the cooperative game itself. Now this game is completely an adventure game, and when I mean completely an adventure game, it is not only about our heroes, but it's also the world they live in, and our players are going to be playing through stories. Now there's multiple different storybooks. The basic game comes with a werewolf style storybook, and also the counterpoint story. Not going to give away too many spoilers, but think about little goblins that go bump in the night. As you get different expansions, they're going to add in additional storybooks, and in different ways you're going to have modifying the way the rules play. Different scenarios, different things are going to happen, and the game is going to progressively get harder as you start adding in all these different storybooks. In the beginning, counterpoint, not too tough, but once you start getting towards the later storybooks, you're going to see a lot of great challenges. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, because how do you play the game? Well, this game, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to pick a mission. Every one of these missions are going to tell you exactly what you need to do to win the game. Usually what it requires you to do is to go against a true threat. Whether this true threat is trying to destroy Christmas, this true threat is maybe it's just a whole bunch of cultists out to get all the blood, or maybe it's a Wendigo trying to spoil the polar plunge and take everything away and ruin a whole bunch of lives. Basically, every one of our heroes is going to pick a mission. After you pick your mission, the next thing you do is you need to pick a saint. Now the game does come with a lot of saints, and you can pick one of your saints. They all have different stats and different abilities, but the basic idea behind every one of these saints is they're going to allow you to create a deck of cards. You're going to use this deck of cards, and it's going to represent your life force, and it's also going to give your statistics, and it's give you the different basic ways you're going to interact with the game. Because our saints are going to be interacting with locations that are called nexuses. These nexuses are places such as motels, police precincts, woods, lakes, various different locations. There are dozens of different locations. The different locations will be based on the scenario you're playing. I have it right now set up for the scenario where you are out there trying to hunt down an evil Wendigo who has a couple different accomplices, has captured a little child, and also has some snow angels, and eventually they're going to bring some bystanders and sink them down into the lake if our heroes can't rescue them, hunt down this Wendigo, and send it to his own final grave. And the way this is going to work is our hero is going to visit these various different locations. As you visit these different locations, you're going to play omens, whether they're omens of hope, which will bring your nexuses to a positive conclusion, which makes them easier to interact with, more beneficial to our heroes, or you may get omens of doom, which are going to keep these nexuses on the doom side, which makes them much more challenging, much more detrimental, and they're going to cause additional problems for all of our heroes, and also makes it a lot more difficult to shut down these locations and chase away the evils. As our heroes adventure through these locations, they're going to be gaining cards, or at least trying to get cards. Some of these cards will be mind cards, which give them special abilities. Some of these cards are going to be body cards. If they successfully gain them, and give them special abilities. Some of these cards will be rage cards. Again, rage cards, kind of more combat centric. Or finally, we can get soul cards, and all these different cards can give us different abilities to work with using dice, because the dice are the way we're going to mainly interact with this game. We're going to play cards that are going to allow us to gain more dice. The more dice we get, up to a certain limit based on the rules, the better chances we have of defeating the true evils of the game, such as lost souls, such as evils, such as things that are hiding and watching you from behind that are going to run away and keep running away until you shut down all these different locations, based on how you randomly build these nexuses every single time you play the game. Because every time you play the game, these nexuses are going to be set up by randomizing a certain amount of cards. They have a specific amount of cards inside them, and these cards could be good cards, such as the fact that you may have omens in these decks. They could be positive omens, or they could be negative omens, or they could be your eventual goal of working towards capturing the minions, whether the minions that are beneficial, not so beneficial, or minions such as bystanders. All your eventual objectives is to hunt down, most likely in most of these adventures, not all we're going to play like this though, but your eventual goal is to hunt down the master. Once you discover the master, you must chase him away by defeating him, otherwise he's going to run and hide in a different location. And every time he runs and hides, if you don't have these locations closed down, he may run to those other locations, but if you manage to close down all those other locations, eventually you're going to hunt him down, find him in the final location, work through that final location, working through all these enemies, all these different cards, and all these different challenges with your eventual goal of finding that final master, defeating him, and shutting him down if that's the eventual goal of the mission. Now this is just a rough overview of the game. The basic box itself comes with nearly 20 missions, which is more than enough for replay variety just in the base box. When you add in all the extra expansions, they're going to come with a lot more missions. Every one of the expansions has an additional 4 different chapters of a storybook. Every one of those chapters is broken out with multiple missions. So there's lots of extra variety. I'm just giving you a very basic overview because every time you play this game, you're going to use these structures which are going to help you build your mission. And different structures are going to decide exactly how every one of these missions are going to play out. Sometimes one of your missions is going to require you to corner a horrible gorilla who's trying to remove the benefits of a wonderful Christmas, and you're going to hunt them down wherever there's trouble as the hours pass. Sometimes things will be much more challenging where you just need to gather some supplies while you're fighting a timer. Sometimes you're working against these nexuses. Sometimes a timer is not really just a clock. And sometimes, remember, this is really inspired by lots of modern TV shows like Supernatural, Grimm, and such of those things along those lines. But if you've seen it in some of those shows, you can pretty much guarantee that something very similar will be seen in this game of Apocrypha. As our players complete missions, they're going to slowly unlock different various fragments, which are going to be the boons and the benefits for our heroes. These fragments are going to give our heroes extra special powers. Some of these fragments are fleeting and can only be used temporarily. Some of them are going to give them permanent powers as they progress through this wonderful world, going through all these different adventures. But our eventual goal is to avoid getting too many deaths, because if a hero suffers too many deaths, they are going to suffer a permanent death, and we're going to have one less hero to work towards going through all these missions. Your basic idea with this game is it's not quite like the Pathfinder Adventure Card Game, where you're going to start with a group of heroes, you're going to work through an entire campaign. This is a game that's as much about the heroes as it is about the world. Think of this like your typical episode of Supernatural or something along those lines, where you have your typical heroes who have a tendency to come in and out of the show, and they're working against these multiple different villains who have a tendency to come in and out of the show, and you're working through this grand campaign where it's as much about the heroes as it is about the world. Now, if you want to learn how to play the Apocrypha Adventure Card Game, you can check out my full tutorial video of the game. If you want, you can also watch some sample gameplay where I'll play a full game of Apocrypha, go through an entire mission. Or if you want, you can just check out my review for the game and find out what my opinion of the game itself is. Now, if you have any comments or questions, make sure you leave them down in the YouTube comments down below. I'll be sure to answer them as quickly as I can. You can also feel free to email me at offtheshelfboardgamereviews. That's otsbgr@gmail.com. I'll be sure to answer emails as quickly as I can. If you enjoyed this video, series, click that like button, click that subscribe button, and as always, thanks for watching.